All right. Couldn't start the show without the music. Now, this is your host, Sister RVBey. Um, and Sister Anna Eve is not here with us. That's probably why that didn't happen automatically, sis. However, she's fine, and she will be, I believe, coming in tonight with some information. She just will not be able to stay on the show. As we know, she has a family medical emergency, but she's fine. Her family's fine. We're all fine. And so tonight, I know I do have, let's see, I have Ms. Raheem RFL. Are you there?
Peace and love, Ma. I am here. I am here, along with you, DJ RVBey, with the music.
All right. And co-host Cujo Adwa. Are you there, Brother Cujo?
I'm here. Islam, peace and love to all the Moors.
Islam, you're good. Islam. You know, today we're going to be doing sort of a freestyle Tuesday, as we have done before, which means at some point we're going to have more of the callers for the most part of the show to be able to call in and ask questions. But there are, of course, a few freestyle things we want to mention. And one of some news, and maybe it'll come in later on this. There's a couple of things. But one is they closed down Rikers Island, right? I don't know if you got an opportunity to read that information, Miss, but I know Anna Egypt, so she may add some stuff on that. And
I did get the link, but I didn't get to read it yet. And I was like, wow, no, this is beautiful times right now. Because I'm telling you, I'm a Taurus. Mars is in my sign right now, and I just feel like, man, I'm ready to take on anything. You know, that martial energy is real, you know, and spring season is here. And I'm like, this is what I'm talking about. Because that's a great look, you know. You know how many warriors is locked up in Rikers Island? And though they might have not had the right direction, you know, man, like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I want to read the article. I'm excited. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if they have another plan. What's the you know, if that's just the mask, because I know, you know how the Europeans do. So they might be like, okay, we trying to take all y'all to another concentration camp. Exactly.
See,
you know what I mean?
But that's the whole point. That's the whole point, because, and that's one of the points that Sister Adina brought up with me. She said, look, Rikers Island is a private corporation. All of those, and also the series that I believe it's JB just put out regarding some of the things that, you know, were going on there. But here's the point for us to recognize. That's a private establishment. Those are private corporate security guards and things. And everyone at New York, I know, that's all I hear them say. Yeah, they send you to Rikers like the first holding tent for anything that goes down in any other boroughs. They ship you over there, and then, you know, whatever, all the things that happen.
They take you to the bookings first, and then they take you to Rikers. And then, you know, if you're going to get, quote-unquote, sentenced to some European guidelines, just upstate, you know what I mean? But that's basically like a quote-unquote city county jail almost. It's kind of crazy.
But the point again, they're corporations. That's a corporate establishment. So, you know, again, we raise the point to the Moors waking up, you know, on their position and how they should be handling these things in the first place. So, you know, it's all in line with the divine order. But a lot of things happen where it's the window for action. When I say action, I mean active activity. You know, like Moorish Divine National Movement is for active Moors, or that's what it means. It means to be active. As the prophet said, I want active Moors, not passive. So that being brought up. And another thing being brought up, and let me see if Anna Eve is on the line yet. She's not. She is. No, that's not her. But another thing is that, she'll text me when she goes on, is that, you know, this is a lot going on right now. Now, I'm going to say the dirty word everybody doesn't like. We say that. But guess what? We didn't make up the word study. We got the directions just like everyone else. And so, so there, Prophet Noble said it, for certain. And that's based on whatever your situation is or what have you. So now there's a lot of people who are, trying to catch up or whatever like that, and that's fine. You'll find yourself where you can solve your problems best. Now, the Prophet Noble made that statement too. He said you will find yourself where you can solve your problems best, not where someone else can solve them for you. You see, because that's the point that he's making. And it doesn't mean that we don't feel, but see, there's a lot, the mindset, we're in a mental slavery, so there's a lot of people who are trying to, catch up and know they have to go down this road. It's not my road, it's your road, right? And so what you have is, what did the prophet say was your Savior? He said, if you are looking for your Savior, you must look within. If you are looking for your devil, you must look within. Now, there are some people in these days and time who want to be saviors for those who may not have hit that mile marker yet in their own sojourn. And so what it leads me to is to reinforce right now the chapter, the Secret Brotherhood of the East. I'm bringing it up on my computer. I don't have it in front of me right this second. But it basically says, who is this that, where are these words that you're saying come from? Who is the teacher, that has given you this truth? And then Yahshua says, no, this truth has never been shut up. There is no teacher. Now you go back to the teacher appears when the student is ready. Now, I'm saying this because I'm not talking about everyone. I'm only, for those who have eyes, ears to listen and eyes to see. What we're saying is you have been reminded. It is really obvious now that we have been in a very, very serious mental slavery still going on. Again, may I interject, you will find yourself where you can solve your problems. So you have, again, people who, in other words, we're talking about saving a whole nation, acknowledging a whole nation of people that we are. And, of course, it starts with self first. So you have, if you're going to just look for someone to do everything for you, right, then you may as well. I understand now why Prophet Noble left that statement. Go back to the state in which I found you if you don't believe in this information. Period. And then it's like, well, what do you want me to do? Kill you? I never did quite get that one, but I get it now. Because what it is that a lot of us, we don't want to go through this. We don't want to go through what it is we have to go through. It's like we just don't want to be a part of it. Now, those are the people who now in these days, very well what the program has been to enslave the people and fictitiously enslave. I didn't say slaves because the only slaves on the planet are Slavics. That's it. Everyone knows that with the books that are coming out as well as books that have already been out, but our mindset has not been towards walking in this light of truth. And most everyone, whether you are more unconscious, not conscious or unconscious, whether you're a modern European, whatever, everyone knows that it's about, birthrights and nationality and the fact that we've been mentally enslaved. So we're all walking towards that light. However, as I'm saying, if you with knowing that truth, there's some people who they don't wish to deal with it. Now, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, maybe even 100 years ago, I don't know. I wasn't here 100 years ago that I can recall. So if some people don't want to face this, then it's like, okay, what do you want me to do, kill you? Like, in other words, so you don't have to face this journey. No, you're going to face this journey because reality, it's just a matter of paradigm. It's just a matter of dimension. You're going to find yourself right back to where you can solve your problems best. And it says solve them. Solve them. Not you can't run from them. And when I see that, I don't just mean some ticket or citation. I mean, we as people who are striving to our higher self, because that's the only way you're gonna get that light, that marvelous light. That's it, and that's all. Not saying anyone is perfect or anything like that. No one on this line is either. But that is really what it is. That's striving towards that. You know, that's your journey. So, a last thing, and I don't know if you heard this or know about this, I want to say this. One of the reasons why, in terms of our proclamation process, that we began asking for a photo, be a formal one, to the ceiling, for the ceiling. It just needed to be something to go off of generally to know whether or not, you know, we're looking at family, or more so that we definitely are not looking at the family in terms of the nation, in terms of, you know, the bloodline, in terms of, you know, being obvious, or heirs apparent, as we would say. That's what that means, heirs apparent. It's not that there's any prejudice against modern Europeans or anything, but it is that when you read the declaration, the proclamations, it says, for those who have been, as an example, for those who have been coined Negro, colored, and black. And then the prophet reiterates that and tells you were branded and coined Negro, colored, and black. So we know this, and we also know this through studies in history. So even though modern Europeans, as we're finding out, are the original Negroes and the original blacks. Now, that might go over the head of some, and if it does, then get to studying, and you will see this all to be true, inclusive of, you know, language etymology, because black originally means pale. I know what we think it means today, but we have to be real clear that everything has been reversed, because there is a usurpation of the birthright. So we asked for the photo because there was a lot more Europeans that were trying to take that position, and a few of them got through. There's a brother that got through now. The prophet told you that the Europeans are helping, why not you? Again, we're not judging that, but we understand now that one of these European brothers is being attacked by that, what's the name of that TV show that brother Taharka or something is on? It's not the Moorish News.
No.
What's it?
Morisco World. Morisco World TV.
Yeah, Morisco World TV.
What?
No, Morisco World TV. Morisco World TV.
All right, so
okay.
Check it out. So now, right. So now there's an
Yeah, I was just
on.
going in on their chat room because they're talking crazy. And you know what? When I was hearing, my fault, I don't mean to cut your wisdom, but I do want to speak because I want to go over some things. But please go in. Just go in.
Well,
yeah.
I want to bring this to the table tonight. You know, so now these guys are now attacking this one brother, and I think I know Cujo got something to say too, because I think here's what they're asking him. Also have asked him, who's your teacher? Now let me say something about that. This is where those who are in temples and secret societies, because temple is not a secret society, but they have once infiltrated, that's what it became. Now, you know that's not right, because the prophet already told you, I am taking the cover off of all secret society. Very well, if you study his work, you will see. But you know, so now they're asking those questions. Now, people who ask that, who's your teacher? Who's your grand sheik? You know what I mean, like that. These are telltale signs for us to realize how important it is for us to be our own savior and go down this road and read the prophet's work and find out, you know, what's really, really going on, and that these people, these temples, a lot of them have been infiltrated too, and are acting like secret society clubs, you know, and they're just showing themselves to be that, you know what I'm saying? So now, so now they have, again, go back to the secret teaching of the Brothers of the East. It tells you about the teacher and the truth and the light, and the prophet tells you about the marvelous light. But there's nothing wrong with coming together and effectuating all of these national principles, whether you're in a temple or any other type of association that is proper, that's active Moors. So now I just wanted to hit on that is that I understand that now they're going after this European, which is one of the ones that got through with us. Nothing personal against them, but we had to explain to them, you are not the heir. You are not one who was coined Negro other than black. Yes, you are the original Negro, but these papers are for those who were coined, which is the only reason why we cannot, give that to one of another nationality. I mean, here's the simplicity of it. If I ask you what's your nationality and they say I'm Irish, I'm French, I'm whatever, well, there you go right there. That's not what this is. Doesn't say anything about being Irish. You know what I'm saying? So these are the things that we have to take into consideration. And lastly, and this is why we've done it. So now these people are these infiltrators, because that's what they are. And I say that because, this noise about, these people talking about who's your Grand Sheik and I'm the temple now. If you're coming in, we understand that why anyone would be searching out for the prophet's work. And that is why we suggest it highly and put it on the site. If you want to join the temple, we suggest Canaan land is North America, and that's where Cujo is the Grand Sheik of. Now, we did that not too long ago, but long enough ago for the attacks to start coming, because think about it. It is what I'm thinking. Now, y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. But, you were always doing the work. We were always associated, but it's like that scandal thing, and that they're sitting in their seat and just trying to knock down everything that's happening, because it's the people who are searching and looking for the right direction of information, because all we do is share information. So first, let's get that real clear. We're nobody's teacher, guide, leader, whatever like that. We just share information. So that's the first thing. And if you find that information to be right and exact, or truly you, or speak to your soul, because you got to follow the dictates of your soul, not the dictates of anyone else. So then go forward, and we're all on that same journey. But now it's like an attack. And here comes these guys that are Moriscos. They are clearly Moriscos, and that is a definition that you would look up and know what that means. Converted, what's the other word? Well, today we call them sellout. It's a shame, but it is what it is. So now there's that attack, but we stand tall. And I just trust that you'll find yourself where you can solve your problems best. Is there any other comment on that? Because we were like shocked that this guy from this TV show, Tahaka, was saying anything about anybody. We thought they were handling their own problem.
Let's just say this, with regard to these individuals and the claim that they're making right now, that they found somebody who used RVBey stuff and it didn't work, and then when they called, they didn't get hold of anybody, and all this stuff. Try to create this propaganda again.
Mm-hmm.
The founder of RVBey publication just told you that all it is sharing information. Nobody's brand whatever because they went to RVBeypublications.com website. They're not somebody's leader. Now, they're going to bring somebody who got in a situation, right, to try to make it look like this information is not credible, because here's somebody who, it appears that they got abused because they use this information that these people are pushing us and it didn't work. Where are they when they, how come they're not helping this person with their situation or whatever, right? We'll use the example of Brother RVBey, right, who was on the list of the kidnapped Moors, right? He was on the list. His name got shouted out, all right? He's been liberated, not because of some Moorish whatever, or he tried some Moorish whatever, but because as a man, he took responsibility for his F-up. As a real Moorish American, that knows that this information is not about trying to get out of some BS that you got yourself into, he took the hit, did his time in federal penitentiary, not the county whatever or the, traffic court jail. Big house, did his time, right? And came out, and guess what? He's still RVBey. He's still using RVBeypublications.com as his source for information. He still, as soon as he came out, called his Grand Sheik, Kudro Adwell, to let him know, hey, more, just letting you know that I'm out. Right? Why? Because this is bigger than some situation that he had. This is about his birthright. That he did the time. We're not talking about somebody who used Moorish information and got out of something. Right? He got himself in a situation, guilty by association, same stuff that we're talking about in class today. He got himself caught up in some guilty by association, right, and had to do hard time just because you aren't showing niggers. So you get nigger treatment. But it wasn't no big deal. He didn't get mad at RVBey Publications, and he didn't, talk stupid like they did something to him. Like RVBey Publications did something to him because he got locked up, because he was saying that he's a Moor and he has a nationality card that he got through that site, but they still locked him up. And, he's coming out, he's mad. They're not mad about, took responsibility, which eliminates the guilt. You take responsibility, you don't need to be guilty anymore after that. That's Moorish science. Right? Did the time, came out, and everything's still good. He's still down with Canaan land Moors and all that. He didn't jump ship because they kidnapped him, do whatever they did to him in there or whatever. Everything was still family after, because this is birthright. This is not some club joined Moorish Science Temple. And I'm telling you,
right,
as Grand Sheik, and they like to say the name, who's the name or whatever. You guys just go talk to Kenyu Umar Bey. They call him National Grand Sheik. They call him Divine Minister. They call him whatever it is they call him. For me, that's my brother. That put me through the Adab chamber. If they got a problem with Kudro's teachings that he taught me, Kenyu Umar Bey. That don't forget, Moorish World TV has Kenyu Umar Bey on their channel. They push him. So why they got a problem with Kudro? If the guy who put me through the Adab chamber, they're backing him, and he's not calling me. He got my number and all that. He got my Facebook and all that. He's not sending me no messages about why you letting Europeans do this and that and whatever. So who the hell are these clowns to try to tell me something? If the man who put me through the Adab chamber isn't telling me anything. You're lucky Noble Drew Ali said don't curse, because you guys will be getting it right now. You guys are violating. The man who put me through the Adab chamber, that all these guys rate, they give him supreme 55 gun salutes and stuff like that. Kenyu Umar Bey. He's the one his signature, his autograph is on our charter that we have at our temple right now. That's why I can say, forget Neil Bey and these people, because they don't got no jurisdiction over me. I wasn't taught to be somebody's Grand Sheik under some body of lowlives who haven't done nothing for 90 years. We're new Moors. Eyes wide open, seeing, knowing. Kenyu Umar Bey was there when these Moors had their own plates and all that in Chicago. What are you talking about? What right to travel doesn't work? These Moors had fleets of cars with Moorish plates on them in Chicago in 2007, 2008. Go ask Kenyu Umar Bey. How are these guys talking against right to travel? They rate Kenyu Umar Bey. They give him respect. They gave him Moorish honors, the highest Moorish honors. Trust me, he was there when these Moors would go to court and the whole court shut down. Whole court. Like the whole court. Nothing else is happening but whatever they have going on in that court that day. That's how Moors had it in Chicago. So you can let these guys fool you with a little BS or whatever. All RVBey does is put out information. All Noble Drew Ali does was bring you your nationality and birthright. It's up to you. Do you do whatever you want? But you better not violate nobody's rights. And you better not try to, use this to get out some BS that you got into as a nigger. And you'll be all right. Ask Randy.
I'm telling you.
Islam.
I just got to add, I see it all the time. Just 1 second. I see it all the time with, like you just said, it coming out of being, the Negro colored and black, and you're still doing Negro colored and black stuff, and you got the card. And you just put yourself back into the jurisdiction with the card, and then you want to say the card don't work? And then we've got people all over the place, quote-unquote work system, whatever that means to you. So it's, or the information doesn't work. Well, if truth information doesn't work, what does? What do you think is going to work for you? But you're right. Doing the Negro colored black things, and here's why you do it. But this is with compassion and understanding, because that's all you know. All right? And until you get your information up by study, starting with whatever situation you may have, and using a reasonable mind, you will never know. You just won't. But it's understandable why that happened. But let's identify. You bring Negro colored black stuff into, you really are, into a Lodial national principles situation. That's it.
Islam. But you know what? I don't know. I hear a little bit of echoing. I don't know if that's me. But yeah, it's just odd because there's been so many Moors who have had, their successes with standing on their rights, in multiple areas, from right to travel to protecting their property, Fourth Amendment, to so many other different things that are constitutional. And I just find it ill because, let me start with this. From what I've heard so far, I didn't listen to this new wave yet, all the way through. I was in the chat and it was some woman on there, like you were speaking of, and it seemed from where I tuned in that her issue was she had mold in her home with her children, et cetera, whatnot, somewhere down south or Midwest or something like that. But let me say, that's a personal problem, which is a health issue. You know what I mean? And depending on how you choose to go about that, that's your choice. But you also have the choice to cut the mole out and solve the problem. I don't know all the details, but things like that you cannot blame on RVBey publications. You just can't. Another thing is they were talking about the European boy who was supporting what Moors are doing. And it's like Noble Drew Ali did say, the Europeans are helping me. Why not you? And, I do stand on the fact that there is some things where the line has to be drawn between Moors and Europeans. Like there are differences between us, in fact and indeed. But what I'm saying is, as far as them helping for what they can do, I mean, it is what it is. Or as far as Moors, because you got to look at it. I know some sisters who was in the temple in Baltimore. We talking, as of this decade. And Moors in the temple in so-called Baltimore was letting Europeans come in to advertise for phone advertisements. So my thing is, don't front like they're not getting down with Europeans first and foremost, to try to hit the scene as if they're not working directly with Europeans is deceptive in a sense. Whereas, keep in mind, these people, when they put up their videos, they're not putting up many videos of their temple sessions like Cujo is doing. Like, you get the Sunday classes that Cujo and the Moors and Canaan Land, activate and consistently do. These people are consistently alone with the camera on them, meaning what are they doing when they're off camera, right? Now, yeah, they might go and attend some events, but those temple meetings, though, are there Europeans up in there, because I know for a fact a brother and a sister, father and daughter situation, that was the case. They had Europeans coming in there advertising for cell phones. You understand? And getting members of the temple to sign up for that. So to act like they got a problem with commerce and people, selling their products to our people is a contradiction that I don't respect. It's lights, camera, action. It's not legit. Like, it's hypocritical. So what I'm saying is, and I'm not going front, Sharif did wash Reggie up on that debate, but I'm saying if it wasn't nothing else that Reggie pointed out, Reggie did point out that handshake or that eye wink between Sharif and that European. So these people who are, really getting down with Europeans stepping out as if they are not, like, let's keep it 100. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. So, yes, I'm not giving, I know Reggie is not, official like that, but I'm just saying put it in perspective. You know what I mean? These people stepping out. And again, like I said, when it comes down to these Europeans, right, and the things that Moors are going through, the adversity, and I just want to say, I recognize now, and more so now than ever, that adversity brings about a strength that you can't even really speak of. You can only show and prove. And we're definitely about to go way in, because I'm starting to, something you don't really, nobody wake up like, yo, look, I want an enemy today. If you're living off the 5 principles, that's not how you moving out here. You know what I'm saying? You're not, though you might have had your days when you didn't really understand the 5 principles. You might have been like, yo, we on the streets, anything goes. I don't care about nothing, nobody. You know what I mean? If they got it, I want it, and whatever it is. And, there were some people who had that mentality. But in reality, for Moors who are somewhat seasoned or just being themselves sincere, you're not waking up like, I want an enemy today. Like, you might wake up like, I'm ready to defend myself against any adversity. You're not looking for that, you know what I mean? But it can happen. You prepared. You've been training. You got your martial arts up, your push-ups. You've been doing all of these things. You prepare for things, but it's not like, just because you have a firearm doesn't mean you're supposed to shoot somebody. You know what I mean? And this is what you see even reflected in Roman militia, right? There's policy enforcers with firearms. Just because they got them don't mean they're supposed to shoot somebody. Same self-discipline goes with you yourself and the things that you have. So what I'm saying is that with the adversity that is out there with some pilgrims and Moors, etc., you have to understand that it's nothing new. And that the things that are happening have been happening for centuries. Like, that's the truth. Now, there's been different histories throughout those things to remedy the things that has always been happening since back then. Meaning, the Constitution was established because there was some malicious things going on. and you know what I mean? The rules had to be laid out because it was too ugly for everybody, basically. You know what I mean? That was more so an element or ingredient in the inspiration. So things haven't always been all good. You know what I mean? There's certain good that comes out of a certain bad. Is what you make of the bad situation. So what did the genius minds do? They got together, right? Moors, you know, made Christians or Englishmen or Pilgrims or Europeans accept a law that was perpetual, and not even was, because was is past tense, but that is perpetual and still stands as law today. So when we look at these things and we move from that point of view, knowing what these pilgrims are obligated to, not just what they do, like what our ancestors already shedded blood for, because there's a lot of bloodshed today, but people are like, look, my ancestors already shed blood for me to have this right, and I'm standing on that, and I don't care what you say, because all of the true prophets, excluding the false prophets, have directed me to this point of law. You know what I mean? The sages, if you want to, even if we're talking about those in this age. And when I say that, I'll specifically say Noble Drew Ali to distinguish what's real from what's fake. Because if Noble Drew Ali is saying to enforce the Constitution, and then the Constitution is telling me I have rights that's not even enumerated, that these pilgrims have to respect. Why? Because if I look at his work, he's talking about our ancestors being on the Western Hemisphere prior to the pilgrims, or and even to the point where modern history, the Roman venues had to acknowledge that on a grand scale. I'm talking about proclamations, right? And no matter how you want to look at that, these are acknowledgments of the fact that these societies recognized that Moors was already on these lands. So I take that and I'm studying law and I'm looking at it like, well, I understand there's 4 categories of jurisdiction, all right? And territorial is not one really trying to forget because it's so connected to who I am. You know what I mean? Being here in North America. And I think a lot of people neglect that fact because they're just attached to the continent of Africa, or what's called Africa today. But you know what I'm saying? So when we take all of this into consideration, and we know there's a distinguishment, and we know thyself, because a lot of these people don't know thyself, but apparently, you know, or these are they got on the regalia and all of that, but they're in spirit, in soul, in substance, it's not with them. You know what I mean? And there's been people who knowledge of self really wasn't with for a long time now, meaning that you always had those who wanted to be free from enslavement, and then you had those who were content and would advocate or justify being enslaved. You know what I mean? Like they made it acceptable. And this is what you're seeing today, even when it comes down to the topic of when, you know, Morisco World, et cetera, is trying to bring up Corinne Gaines and all of these things. And I speak from my own experience as well, whereas I've been in de facto courtrooms, and the pilgrim magistrate, European, is telling people, like, not just your license is suspended, like, physically give it to me. And if they don't have it on them, they give them 24 to 48 hours to come back and physically give them that license. Do you know why? I knew why, but there's so many references to why, because, you know, even when you look at the definition of license in the Henry Campbell Black's Law, Fourth Edition Dictionary tells you that license does not create a vested right, and it's not a property right. and it doesn't create a property right. So your license is not, or the license is not your property, which is why they could say physically give it to me, and because it never created a property right. So it's permission, and that's really what it is. Now, who are these people to really put a stop on your movement in life? That's the real question. And do you consent to that? Because when we look at them, I could speak from my perspective, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot of Moors who feel like this. When we're looking at these pilgrims, who we know, since law and history go together, we know who we are. Our ancestors been here for centuries, millennia, ab initio. When we do a comparative analysis between our existence, Pen's existence, we know there's no possible way they could have territorial jurisdiction. There's no possible way unless you consent to an artificial construct. Then the consent creates a different jurisdiction, if you will, or not even that. Well, yeah, an agreement subject to a jurisdiction, which will also be called terms, etc. But a license is not that. Like, it doesn't create a property right, so it's not yours. So, your right to travel is yours. Your existence is yours. Like, if you was to lose everything you had today, you still have you. So that's your right. You have a right to exist in the condition you made, and elevate that condition. If you feel as though you may be in a lowly state, you have the right to elevate, to become a better being, to progress, to digress. It's about choices. So my thing is this, not to get too far off, but my thing is, when we look at this, people say they are Moors, etc., and that is true. Like, because being a Moor is your nationality, birthright. That should be as common or more common than the fact that our Moorish people think or thought they was Negro, black, and colored. Like, that should be known that we're Moors, just as that common. But they misrepresent what's going on, what we're doing as far as what's been done, etc., just providing information. And this is what it is that can be researched and checked out. So my thing is this: mothers and fathers, you know what I'm saying, correlating with the situation that was being spoken of before we started, I would say that, like, if you're going to reproduce and have children, just make sure you can provide them with the proper environment. You know what I mean? Don't be blaming RVBey because you and your quote-unquote baby daddy, quote-unquote, I'm telling you, quote-unquote, baby daddy fell out and all this other stuff, and y'all feel like that's somebody else's fault. Like, no. Like, you might have came across some information looking for the remedy. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like if, like, we study the Constitution, right? We know if nothing else, you're starting with the first 10 amendments. It's the easiest thing to remember in the Constitution. Like, the easiest thing to start with memorizing, honestly. You want to read it from front to back, but to memorize some very key points, those 10 Bill of Rights. That's so easy to remember. Write those down, etc. But when I know that and I see that these people have an oath to this situation, to this Constitution, I'm not going to blame the Constitution if they violate it. Like, it's not the Constitution's fault. Somebody who took an oath violated that oath. It's not the Constitution's fault. It's their fault for violating that Constitution. So the same thing likewise, if somebody is providing you sources and information, you can't blame the source for the information. Who is it that really violated it? That's what you have to focus on. And I think a lot of quote-unquote brothers are not focusing on that because these are cowardice who just want to argue amongst themselves, etc. And I tell you, you got to look at what these people say because, These are people who said they've been in the temple 27 years. This right to travel situation isn't nothing new. RVBey Publications didn't make it up. Nothing new. Stop playing with us. There's cases from the early 1900s on the right to travel. You know what I mean? From the 60s. And I mean, or locomotion, and by ever what will you dictate. So, yeah, that's a right. You know, that's a right, definitely. You also have a right to not be, it's so many rights you have that get violated. You know what I mean? So many rights. So there's this concept of good and evil that's going on. And that's the real issue that's underlying everything. So my thing is this. Yeah, I know Europeans are not Americans, and a lot of them feel like they are. Some of them don't. Some of them really, really want to be Moors because they know their history, and thus they know that they have no history that didn't include Moors from ab initio, you know. And they know what the nobility is. So a lot of times they practicing that behind closed doors, and they know that the Moors are the nobles, which is why they have those things on their fezzes. They have Moorish appellations, all of these things on the fez, you know, that they got pinned down, all of this. So they know who we are because they know who they are. And they always aspired to have the position of the nobles, which is where we are at right now. So they want to be Americans. Why? Because, or they claim, or, you know, have people perceive that the true Americans or Al-Moroccans are some beggar nation called Negro, black, and color that doesn't have any, you know, these are displaced people as far as that concept goes. So they don't have any attachment to the land. You're talking territorial jurisdiction. They start talking about slavery in Africa. And you're like, well, look, we was already here. And even if you thought you just came from that continent across the great Atlantic, like it wasn't attached to this land, but, you know, how did a Pilgrim 1492 get jurisdiction over you here without your consent? I mean, in these days, like, how do you still consent to that? Like, because it's one thing to know it exists, and there's certain things you might have to do in certain situations, but with no situation, you're just like, oh, no, I was a descendant of a slave, and, you know, but I'm a god, though, and we was all over the planet, but, you know, I don't care about America. It's just crazy. So we waving territorial jurisdiction all over the place. And I think that these are concepts why you have Moriscos who have accepted the will of the Christians and try to impose it on other people as if they shouldn't. Like, now, if you accept that, that's a choice. You have a right to choose. Nobody's trying to say, you know, nobody's holding a gun to anybody's head saying, you know, if you don't do this, somebody's going to kill you type of thing. Like, no. You know what I mean? There's been people who've been shot down with driver's license, reaching for their driver's license. It's a realer issue going on. And my thing is for Moors to not address that, and also the fact that Mansour Bey was an MST of A member. He was an MST of A member and got shot down by the police. And these people didn't give him a shout out yet. Like, yet. MST of A member. You feel me? Like, what's that about? But I tell you, I'm watching. I'm listening. Okay, these dudes act like they got respect for Taj. Like, I'm telling you, this is the reality. To RVBey, he did something. Cujo sent me the link as well. He did something yesterday, and I was listening, and he's like, yeah, Taj was out here for a while, and he does a great work, and, you know, I admire that, and now we got to piggyback off that. But I'm like, hold on. You've been in this temple 27 years. 27, this is what he said. 27 years. and you don't have nothing as of now. Like, who's the true fool? You know what I mean? Like, what's really good? If you've been in the temple 27 years, where's your room to speak right now? Feel me? Like, all we have to show is a YouTube channel, which is great. But what I'm saying is we got to use these platforms for what is more ameliorating to the true point. But what I'm saying is with the adversity now, it's like, okay, we could definitely turn up. I feel it, you know what I mean? The season is here. I see like it's nothing new, but attacks are real right now. So all I'm saying is I'm thankful to be here, you know, and I'm riding with you all. We here.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, let me say this, if you will. I don't want to cut you, but and Cujo, I mean, because you know the specific European they're talking about, Brother Latif, and I know that you have spoken with him, and we know that yes, as I said earlier in the beginning of this show, of this broadcast, modern Europeans, Prophet said, Europeans are helping. Why not you? This is your Negro problem. Now, and I also said, and we'll make it clear for the record, this particular brother, European, is why got through on our processes. And that's when we realized that modern Europeans were trying to get through. Now, we're sitting here, so, we explained it. It's not for you. You're not the national. So that one got through. I don't know what they're talking about with what didn't work for him, but if he was trying to make the claim, it wouldn't work for him. Now, I'm not saying that it doesn't work for Moors who make that claim, proper or improper or whatever, however they mix the apples with the oranges, because I know for a fact that we mix those who, like I said earlier, who have the card, bring in the wrong information and come with still with the Negro mentality and try to gauge it up against, a load of information, and that won't work. And I understand now why the prophet said the card would change in your pocket, because, again, as soon as you did that, and as you mentioned earlier, as you broke down the territorial jurisdiction, that's the very, 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 very first thing they do all day long. They violate you, and then in their paperwork, in their paper processes, they'll send you something that says in the jurisdiction of the city of, whatever, you were speeding on, Fifth Street. How many people recognize that's a territorial claim? And if you don't recognize it's a territorial claim, then take right there, because you have to rebut that by simply saying in the territory of, in the jurisdiction of my ancestral state / national domicile, North America. That's how you have to start. So I want to say, so let's just get it out there. So now I don't want to drag the fact that this European got through, and that's why we changed our processes. Not against him. Not against them. Because, we have to understand something as well. A lot of the modern Europeans today, they're just getting this truth too. That doesn't mean it belongs to, the card or the claim belongs to them. But they're going to get their lessons on that as well. It's time for everyone to confess their role. That's where it is. Simple as that, and have understanding, overstanding, and understanding of what it is you're confessing. Everyone has to be forced to do that. So we just want to put it out in the air. Yep, that was inflicted and dug through and found that. But it's all good. I would like to ask this question, Cujo, because clearly that the temples are membership, And back in the day, what did the prophet offer any type of membership card, but not nationality, specific to modern Europeans who were involved? Because I do know that those who were and carried on his work, modern Europeans I'm talking, they opened up, is it the Orthodox? I think they call it the Orthodox Temple. Do you have any information regarding that?
Yeah, as far as the membership of quote unquote Europeans in the temple, there's no records of Europeans being members of it, but they did support it. They did support Noble Drew Ali's program. Right?
All right.
So,
all right.
So
we want to make that real clear.
There is a connection there because it's information.
Right.
We're looking at him like the prophet. They're looking at him like somebody bringing information. And his information ties to them. Because when they trace back their Irish whatever, it's going to go back to Moors anyways.
How about that?
They're not tracing back. They're not tracing back some Irish and bumping into some Europeans to say that's their history where they go back to. They're caught.
Yeah.
They're caught.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
There's no option for which is where he's coming from, because there's no option. Like, okay, so I traced it back and it goes back to Moors now. So okay, so now what am I gonna be? I might as well be Moor. Put a fez on or whatever like that and be a Moor. I know from a perspective of pigmentation, I don't qualify. I know that. But when I trace the history back of whatever bloodline I claim as European, it went back to dark-skinned people. There was a time when people who I say I come from as European stock or whatever, there was a time when they were dark-skinned people.
Absolutely. All four corners.
So,
of the earth. Mothers and fathers. Yes.
So what do you want them to do? What do you want them to do? To be, if they go to the cave, they're still going to be Moors. If they go to Argentina or whatever like that, they're still going to be Moors. Because they're caught. Yes, it's amalgamation, but I mean, like I say, you know what I mean? He will be classified, called whatever, European or whatever, right? But trust me, I'll put him to bat before anybody on Morisco World TV. I'll make him beat it before any of these guys. Why? Because he studied the information, fact-checked it 3-4 times, even got locked up. And still, just like RVBey, came out and ain't nothing changed, ain't nothing to be mad about, you know what I mean? I'm going to be mad. Because, what people don't hear about is the fact that when he got locked up, he was in there telling these guys about their Moors and all that in the jail. Which is why they immediately got rid of him. And gag ordered him and all that stuff like that, because the jurisdiction that he was in was being controlled by so-called Freemasons. And they weren't having that. But then, what they're going to do, because he's saying Moorish subject. He's saying, I'm using the Great Seal because I'm a Moorish subject.
Exactly.
I am not U.S. citizen or whatever like that. I'm not that. I know what you guys are doing. And you're not going to put me in your jurisdiction to have jurisdiction over my body, because I might not be, human being or whatever like that, but I know that I'm living, and I know that you guys are violating people, and you're not going to violate me. So if I know that in my studies I found out that, there's a jurisdiction where you can live just being who you are, once you're not violating the laws or whatever. Well, exactly. I'm gonna go there before I go anywhere else. If I'm a foreigner, if I have nowhere to live, if I have no home, I'm going to go to the place where I will be accepted easiest, because I don't really want any strain because I'm a foreigner.
You're right, exactly.
On that strength, he's talking how he's talking. He's not talking how he's talking because he's trying to pretend to be a Moor, or he wants to use Bey because, you know, the power of using Bey opposed to a European name and crazy like that. That's not what the perspective that he's coming from.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. Now that's interesting because, you know, you're right. And this is where, when you say, like, he knows he's a Moorish subject, all of them are Moorish subjects. We're not Moorish subjects. And so he recognizes that, you know, and it's like we can't even, you know, we thought about it, and I think I had sent you a copy. We were thinking about writing up a proclamation. In fact, we did it, but we just have not done that process yet. Because first, the modern European has to understand that first of all, they're not the priority in terms of proclaiming, you know, the ancestral estate at this time. Anyway, we're having enough trouble trying to get our own people to be in order. Like, why bring them in, you know, and say, yeah, you're a Moorish subject, and here we can issue that necessary proclamation for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, if we were going to do that, which may happen, but our own people.
This is why to the second part now, why there was the Moorish Orthodox Church.
Exactly.
Because these Europeans realized, hey, hold on a second, we can't be Moors, but we can be Moorish subjects, and we can create a jurisdiction once we're living under the rules that the Moors have set forth, which at that time would have been Noble Drew Ali. So they studied his literature, and they had their own passports and stuff like that. Europeans.
That's it. Right.
They had their own. They had their own. You know what I mean? Like they had their own European abolitionist movement to try to get Europeans to not be white and all that, and go back to their heritage. And that Noble Drew Ali's teachings are supposed to make them better people and stuff like that. This is the perspective that they were talking in the Moorish Orthodox Church, which was Europeans.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh.
And we're not when we look at that, that's the Europeans. That's the perspective of the ones that we would need here. Everybody else needs to get the hell out of here. Like, if you're not coming with the perspective of recognize Noble Drew Ali, recognize that the jurisdiction that you're under is the Moors, and that Moors have superior claim regardless of what you claim, then everything will run smooth. Right?
And
because we already have our jurisdiction. We already have our culture, customs, and all that. It's not. The issue is that, and it always comes down. It always comes down to Cain. It always comes down to Set. Always comes down. The evil brother.
So,
right?
Yeah.
The people that are amongst our ranks are the issue. The people who have turbans and fezzes on and are fighting dumb fights, like just creating confusion for no reason. Like there's no reason for what to have been going on for the past 2 days. Like, there's no reason whatsoever.
I think they just want to be heard, want to be, get attention and stuff. That's what I get from it.
Right. And that's exactly what it is. Right?
No, I think,
it's for there are people who want that. That has its own jurisdiction. That there's people who that's what they want. Hey, cool, do your thing, but you don't have to you know what I mean, try to run people through the mud who are wearing the mud protection suits. You know what I mean? Like, you're not, it's not, you're doing more harm. They're doing more harm to themselves than good.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
This is how you know that it is deliberate propaganda. Right?
Yes.
Not against RVBey publications and Taj Street Bay, whatever, against Noble Drew Ali and what he brought for the nations. Don't look at that they're violating RVBey. Look at it that they're violating Noble Drew Ali. Forget RVBey and Taj Street Bay and Cujo and whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're violating Noble Drew Ali's platform, which is an open platform for uplifting fallen humanity, which humanity is everybody.
Exactly. I mean,
humanity is everybody. Universal prophet.
Now,
but
I'll tell you where. No, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'll tell you where it's bringing us to the next level. Now, here's the thing. The next level of teaching, of sharing information and others on this line and who are listening, of studying next level. It's forcing it because it has to happen. And that is when you had mentioned that when you go back to all four corners of the earth, we are the mothers and fathers of civilization on all four corners of the earth, and you find dark melanated Moors, thirst navigators, as the mothers and fathers, right? Excuse me. So the question begs, where did the modern European come from? So now you have to understand what the true meaning of Negro is, what the true meaning of black is, and why they put out Darwin's theory, and why, when you talk about bloodline, like you said, there is a mixing of bloodline, and the Biblioheliotext says, look what you have wrought. So now we got to talk about those origins and how these people, like a Englishman, if you look it up, it says we are but a hybrid. They're hybrid. This is what we actually birthed them into slavery. That's why they're called Slavics. So now that's the next lesson. But if you can't get the lesson of who you are, how can you possibly get this next lesson? And let me tell you how Prophet Noble Drew Ali brought that lesson when you get to the 102s. And this is what I'm looking for at this moment. Oh, my goodness. It says in the 102s, right? You notice if you have one, here it is. If you have one, it never ever, it refers to Yahshua as Yahshua, not Jesus, because they know by now you've gotten the 101 lessons and you already know that he is Yahshua. So you will never find the word Jesus in the 102 because this is when you have graduated and you got that. But when he asked the question, and I don't know why I can't bring this up. Okay, when he asked the question, it becomes number 86. Now, 86 in the 101 is named some of the marks that were put upon the Moors of northwestern Mexico by the beast Satan in 1774. And clearly, this is the coining, Negro, black, colored, and Ethiopia. Because we know Ethiopia means a dividing line, right? It's not a land. And then, but in the 102, the number 86 says, what is meant by the word Negro? In the 101s, it says what is meant by the word Negro. That becomes number 86 in the 102s. And it says Negro is the name given to a river in West Africa by the Moors because it contains dark or black water. Because, you know, Negro means, in certain languages, means dark or black. 87 in the 102. In reality, now this is the question that's in the 102. But again, if you haven't graduated from the 101, then, hey, that might be why you need to study. That wonderful word there. It says, in reality, what is a Negro? Now, this is the prophet. He's telling you. in reality, what is a Negro, right? Not what is a name given to something, but what is a Negro? And the answer is, and the prophet gives it, he says a Negro that has 4 legs. Now, he's not setting you up towards your further studies to understand what and how, we, as scientists, we went in and grafted this being, all right, who knows they are but a hybrid. If you look that Englishman up in Oxford's dictionary, it'll tell you we are but hybrids. But see, this is the next lesson that is it's hard to receive that lesson if you won't even receive the fundamental lessons and you're running around and like you said, attacking everybody because of the information that's being put before them, only to beg for you to go and check it out and study so that you can show yourself approved. That's all we're doing. It's giving information. You got people out there that want to knock information, and then we give the elementary stuff with just even current day rules, laws, you know, the Constitution, the violations of your rights. Article 1, you have the right to associate with whomever you want. That means that nobody can force you to associate with these corporations or anybody or anything or any group or any corp, anything at all. And you won't take that position and say, oh, well, you know, well, they said we've got to do this, and they said we've got to do that. Well, that means you missed what Article 1 said is your inalienable, unalienable right. I'm not saying that you don't have to associate, but you missed it. But why did you miss it? It's missing from you, but why? Because of the mental slavery. Back to when the prophet said, I came to take you out of your mental slavery. All right? So all of the answers are already there because principles don't change anyway. But now we want to run around here and there and over here and over there and then talk about the obvious that seems to be the obvious with your fleshy eyes, not realizing that you create your reality from the unseen. Well, you can't get to that, obviously. So that seems like, oh, that's a higher degree. But here you go. So there's your sign right there on what a Negro really is. But you didn't get that in the 101. You got it in the 102. Not only did you in the 102, you would get it if we studied. So I'm thinking that the time has come, and the other reason I think that time has come is because of all of the books that are now out, written by modern Europeans, telling the truth about the fact that they were the original slaves over in Britain, which is why they wanted to be free from the British, which now people call the English, but the English is the fiction. It's British, the brutish Moors, and that they were the original slaves over in these lands because the British brought them over here. So when you read the book, and left from here to die, and that's when, and of course, that's a mistreatment, that's inhumane, and that's when the natives or Moors who were here that they want to wrongly call Indians, but this is not India, you know, was helping them to survive, or trying to anyway. But so this means that the next level, this is how we're going to deal with this. Let's go to the next level of learning. And those who are not going to be able to get on that train, that bus, that boat, so be it. They'll still be sitting there with the camera shot on them talking trash of what they don't really know, you know, because it's negative energy and it's to gain and attention. And there's a lot of people trying to gain an attention without first, you know, receiving this information that they need to receive within themselves and then simply sharing it. Don't be trying to be anybody's leader, nobody's guide. I mean, you know, we all are a guide. Everything can be a guide. But, you know, think about it. Who can knock information? That means these people don't want to be free within themselves, and now they want to grab you and don't want you to be free either. And how do we do that? Throw stones at others, judge, and all that. You're in the wrong space of mind if that's where you're at with it. So that's what I'm thinking, that it's just time. It's just time for the next level, because that's what we're going. like you said, Kuja, what did you say? They're throwing something, and we already have the suit, the protective suit on. What word did you use a few minutes ago? Are you there, Kuja?
Sorry, I was on mute. Say that again.
You said something about they're throwing something, but at people who already have their suit on, their protective suit on.
Oh no,
you know
dragging the mud, yeah.
Yeah, they're mud protective suits on. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Trying to find some other dirt. Taking you through the mud, still looking for something that, like, it's craziness. It's out of order. So,
yeah.
So
and my thing is they're trying to.
Go ahead.
So, no, I was going to say, so what?
No. Go ahead. Okay.
No, I was going to say no because I'm just analyzing it. It's crazy because, excuse me, the importance is to know it all boils down to the fundamentals that, you know what I mean? It's like I'm analyzing this, and I think that either these people are deliberate agents,
yes,
or really miss the fundamentals. And I'm thinking more so agents because we already know what time it is when it comes to attorneys, you know, being officers of the court. So for quote Moor, you know, in the temple to actually be, you know, like promoting an attorney opposed to understanding, you know, being impropria persona, I think that's also just as worse, if not worse than or equal to, you know, promoting a Moor who is for that designed, you know, Englishman, European system. Because I'm telling you, fam, like I'll tell you from experience, you know what I mean, that the worst type of gatekeepers are definitely people who look like us. And the reason why I say it feel worse is because you would expect a little bit more, you know, understanding nationality and birthright. When I've went to file writs, there's some European women who could get funky. There's some European males who could get funky and act like they don't want to, you know what I mean? And they got to examine and ask their supervisor because there's been, you know, this is just crazy. But, I mean, it feels the worst, like when the sister is at the window and is carrying out the European agenda to violate your right to due process of law. And this is not bashing the sisters. I'm really not. But it is a reality that some of them are frontlining for the European Pilgrim programs. No, I hear something clicking in the background. I don't know why.
That was me. It's all good. I can't get that out.
All right, true. But, yeah, so just because they put a Moorish face, like if you understand what they stand for, like what they're doing, you know what I mean, who they're working for when they claim to be working for you, you know, don't let them say, oh, well, you know, somebody studied under RVBey and they got 7 years. Like, they didn't get 7 years because of RVBey. They got 7 years because of, you know, I'm sure there was violations, but, you know, things that they did, all right, and then look to RVBey for a remedy, etc., which there's plenty of information there that you can find and research and cross-reference, etc. So, you know, if a Moor takes a hit, it's not the first time in the world. I don't want to see that happen to anybody. Don't get me wrong. But I'm saying there's been kidnapping going on for centuries. You know what I mean? For centuries. And how many attorneys representing people, and these people are doing football numbers with representations of attorneys. So, like, keep that on the you got to put that on the Libra scale. You can't just say that because we're talking justice. So if you're saying, oh, somebody dealt with RVBey and they got 7 years, look, they're not legit. Like, come on, fam. We could go through a laundry list. Like, we could dedicate a wall that just might be able to like, the list could run concurrent with the Great Wall of China. I mean, they got memorial walls and all of these things. But if we list all the attorneys that took cases and the clients that they represented doing time right now, it's a very long list. It's a very long list. So there's a corruption in the judicial system, period, regardless.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But they're supporting that corruption.
Yeah, no, it's blatant. It's blatant. However, there are some who are, navigating correctly and understand that from an international perspective, all of that is foreign. We're Aboriginal, Indigenous, and they're foreign. And they have no jurisdiction. And we're not getting off that because this is what it is. We're talking identity. So with that comes a lot. Who are you? And then ask yourself again, like, who are you? What are you doing for who you are? Right? And those who are who you are. So, in other words, you and your people, what are you doing for them? If you know who you are and you're being yourself, naturally, like, if you, and you would have to know, like, seriously know who you are. Naturally, you would not be working with pilgrims, like, up under their jurisdiction, like that. Like, as far as I'm dealing in the slave auction blocks, but yet you're an officer of the court, and you already know that an officer of the court is an officer of the court, meaning they're subject to the jurisdiction. They're working for the court, not you. Bottom line. And if you know that, in conjunction with being impropria persona and being yourself, there's a force that's with you. Attorneys wouldn't even want to represent you. I was just talking to my brethren today. You know what I mean? And they hit him with a false indictment. And he went on the special appearance, and they told him straight up, like, you can't have effective counsel. You cannot. There's nobody who could represent you. This is what the Magi told him. So, I mean, in the essence, if he didn't want to waive that right, he didn't have to, but he fought his fight before, and they already know what time it is. You feel me? So they're looking at it like, we know who you are. We know we can't represent you. They will only play that on the weak-minded so that they can make more finance off of them because the attorney got to get paid off the bat, you know what I mean? Or you have some of them who say they want to get paid if they beat the case. And then, that's contingent upon what deal they make with the judge before you apparently beat the case anyway. So, you know what I mean? That they still just making finance because it is what it is. So my thing is, like, in these days, to not know who you are and to not know who the Romans are is dangerous. You know what I mean? It's really dangerous. And it's like this. Whether you're moving with just a nationality card or a so-called driver's license, there's a serious threat on you. And I don't want to say that to put anybody in fear, but there's no difference in that aspect because, look, we had the realest stop ever. You know what I mean? So you can't tell me, you feel me, that, I mean, I've had the best and worst traffic stops ever that anybody could ever imagine, fam. Like, no, real talk. Like, real talk.
Yeah.
I had the best encounter and the worst encounter. I had them both. You feel me? So you can't tell me things is not real are not real. You feel me? But what I'm saying is to never acquiesce. But if that's your choice, it's a choice. And just because somebody is telling you that there's no hope, it's nothing we can do, you don't have to believe that. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to believe. You don't have to rock with that. Now, I understand that it does feel like it's hopeless. Sometimes you could feel like that. But I liken that to the fact that, it's still a finish line to cross. It's like if you're a track runner or you're a sports player, it is what it is. Like there's going to be times where you get fatigued, It just is what it is, especially when you're putting a lot of energy into what you're doing, the mental fatigue, physical fatigue, all of these things. So you might have to, take a little break, come back, whatever. I liken that fatigue spot to sometimes it feels like it's hopeless. When it's not that, you might just need to take a time out and, refresh yourself and get back to it.
Because victory is assured. But it gets to a point where if you are fatigued, you can't keep, you might not be able to keep moving at that time if you reach your absolute, apex with your fatigue. You got to get your wind back. You know what I mean? You have to. It is what it is. But you're going to get it back, and you're going to keep it moving. So my thing is, it's not hopeless. And I know it's a challenge. It's the challenge of all challenges. We're talking about the concept of good and evil. We're talking about the myth that had people shook, which they didn't understand, between the God and the devil, which is good and evil. You feel me? Like devil, evil, right? So God and devil. God is good, devil, okay, evil, etc. This is the yin and the yang. This is here. You know what I mean? We can't deny that. It's true. But a battery wouldn't operate without both of those energies. Feel me? Like your car battery couldn't start your car if it wasn't for the negative and the positive. It wouldn't go anywhere. So, you know what I mean? You have to consider all of these energies is what molds creation. Like I was saying earlier, the Constitution didn't just come about because somebody thought so one day. Like, no, it was a series of events for certain things where the natural law had to be reinforced. You know what I mean? In the tangible realm for man or for mankind too. In that matter, when you consider all parties, pilgrims being involved, the Europeans being involved, or mankind, etc. So, or modern Europeans for that matter. So, from a series of events of things that happened, they tweaked. They was like, listen, y'all are at a point where you can reason that if you shoot the deer's going to die. So this is what we got to do. We got to make peace because things need to live. So let me just say that in correlation with the hunters and the hunted, because there was a point where everybody was being hunters, or not everybody, but a lot of people were hunters, meaning there was a lot of people who was prey and killed. It was war, in other words. So from the results of that on a mass level, there had to be an agreement to stop it. You know what I mean? There had to be the contract, which was the Constitution. Why does it apply to the Europeans today? Because it was for posterity between two nations. So they like, listen, you know what I mean? Like, that's what it is. When the contract was made, it was so much energy that went into that Constitution as far as making it so valid, you know what I mean? Like, seriously putting the spirit in it. You could see it. If you just read the 10 Bill of Rights,
you can see like what's going on right now, that there was some genius minds somewhere. And you could also see that there's some evil geniuses in correlation with that, because it's like, damn, everything this is saying is exactly what's being violated every day in your face. So you either look at it like, wow, well, the ancestors had great provisions, which are great, you know, for protections. Then you like, hold on, but somebody also had intentions to violate this. You know what I mean? But what's that about when you check all of these people's backgrounds? They have an oath to the Constitution. Bottom line, they have an oath to this document. So for them to violate that document, you know, among other things that are protected via that document, you have to realize what the problem is. And then you had those who started thinking like the colonists, and that's another problem. So now they're like, oh, nah, you can't move your land without your master's permission. But, you know, this is what we're looking at. So you got to be aware, you know, be yourself, know yourself. Know that if the power is in the people have a responsibility to move with power or force or enforce the Constitution. So it fails when the people get weak-kneed, telling you, I know, I understand, I do understand. But when their knees get weak, this is the only thing that can make the body collapse in that regard, or, you know, because you're not supporting the body, you know, and this is what it's about. So it's about being firm, standing on your square, and knowing that if the power is in the people, what is it that the people collectively aren't doing that shit is out of control right now? Excuse my expression. But how did the people let this get that far out of control? That's the real question. You feel me? Like, how? And even if we say we know how, with all these complaints, when you look at who has the obligations, right, you need to know where to place that. That's really what it is. And again, like I said, good and evil exists. So I'm not saying indulge, but I'm saying you have to have balance to all of this. So, you know, self-defense exists. So again, you know, man, I know people don't like to talk about it, but that Second Amendment is powerful. You know what I mean? The Second Amendment is powerful.
We won't go there because our people are off the chain right now. I do want to say this, though.
And hold on, let me just say this. I don't mean to cut your wisdom, but I say the Second Amendment is powerful in a unified way, because in there it speaks about a well-regulated militia, like, so the individual but the collective too. Feel me? Like, not just the individual, the collective, for a common cause. So when you see who's against you, you see you for. I'm just saying, it comes in a point where we have to do more than know it. You know what I mean? Like, and be it. Because when the Bundys took over, and these was pilgrims, the Bundys did that out in Oregon and took over with firearms. And beat the case. Some of them still fighting, etc. But that goes to show you, you know what I mean? Now, I know people going to say, oh, well, yeah, they was Europeans. Of course they could get that off. Look, man, when we collectively put our energy into something, you know, we can do whatever, specifically when it comes to territorial jurisdiction. And I know it's some arrogance going on too, specifically with the pipelines going through Northwestern Mexico, etc. But being said, I'm gonna yield the floor. I mean to cut your wisdom. All right.
No. Islam, that's fine. I was just, you had mentioned earlier, I took a note on it, on reframing or setting back. And, just to give a little astrology lesson on that. That's a very important thing for beginnings and ends, and that means for everything, because it's a cycle that doesn't close. And that would be representative in the 12th house, Pisces, where, and what's really interesting is that Pisces also represents enemies, all of your enemies, and power over or success over enemies. And here's the deal: if you do not pull back, and refrain so that you can, perfect your technique of whatever it is that you're doing, or take that break, so to speak, if you will, as you mentioned, then it will be your own self-undoing. And that's also why you, as those who are studying astrology or whatever, will see that Pisces represents, in short words, let's say the house of self-undoing, because you have to refrain to perfect your own technique, and you have to refrain, like you said, take step back and really look at things. And failure to do so is why, on another level, Pisces rules, that house rules institutions such as jails, prisons, and mental or insane asylums. That's the reason why it's there, because that's a necessity. So keep that in mind. And also, what came to my mind when you were talking about buckling at the knees, because, yes, it can get weary, but there is no rest for the weary. And as you said, the finish line's not there, and we have been told victory is assured. See, because at some point, as Cujo had mentioned earlier, they're stuck. It's like when they go back, even in going back into Irish or Ireland or wherever they're going to go, they're going to find where the mothers and fathers did. It comes from there. So that they come from this earth plane, and we are the mothers and fathers of civilization and civilization principles, period, right? So now this is what the prophet said is going to be in your hands, Moorish. But see, here's the thing: are you going to be prepared? Where are you going to be? I know you're going to be wherever you can solve your problem. That we know. That's just sensible, logical. But this is what it's about. So if you don't have this information and you're still bickering over dumb stuff and don't know who is who and what is what, when it comes back in your hands, what are you going to do? But those who stick to the principles, all right, or know the principles and stick with them, and, we're trying to start something new. There's nothing new. The new world order is really the old world order. And if you don't know that, you're lost. Now, the other thing as well, mentioning about attorney or using an attorney. I mean, there's so many things that brings you to these points of realization, I think. But just looking up the word appropriate persona in the dictionary, it tells you in that definition. You weren't even looking for anything that has to do with an attorney. But that's where you find it through your study, just looking up that word. And it says, pleas to the court must be made in appropriate persona. If not, they are made by an attorney. It gives leave to the court. That's what it says. And that's how I said, wow, they're letting you know. Now, some people might be sensitive. They read that sentence. Let me just say, they read that sentence that says give leave, and because they don't know what leave means, they don't understand what that said. So that's when you would go and look up leave. But it means gives jurisdiction. So now, as you were saying, if you know that an attorney is really is your adversary, that they speak for people who can't speak for themselves, then you know that you can't use them. And I also want to add, there's a lot of Moors who went through this thing talking about, I believe, I'm not sure how the statement went, but something about they got their own attorney general, or they got power of attorney or something. I mean, all of those roads that they went down only showed the lack of knowing. I'm not even going to say study anymore. Lack of knowing and putting ourselves into jurisdictions that we do not belong in at all. So you got people who have these contracts, paperwork, and their power of attorney or something to that effect over themselves, and it's just like really, it's really nasty. It really is, but it's all going to come to a head, as we said. And lastly, there, when you were talking about the license, well, how many people know that you can't even use a license? That's coming to a dead end. Matter of fact, got 6 more months. That's 180 degrees, if I'm not mistaken, on the time frame where they're not to be used. The driver's license instrument is not to be used as identification. But see, that's because it never was identification. And so now, guess what? As you had mentioned, if they offer something to you and you believe that it is, and you think that it is, that's that mental slavery, then so shall it be in your world. And so if you are joining into that jurisdiction and into that world, then guess what? You're going to get whatever it is they got for you. And it's not good. Because if anyone was good and humane, they wouldn't want to enslave you mentally or otherwise for their benefit. That is slavery, yes. And yes, we did, the brutish Moors, our cousins, did establish that in a very bad way. And so the karmic debt for that is what we are looking at now, but it is over. But some people are still stuck because they're in the mental slavery. And that's why Prophet came and said, let me take you up out of this mental slavery. Because he knew that you were going to know this day, this moment, you are not the Negro, the colored, or the black. That you would know what occurred and that the taking place and reversing of roles, that's what was going on. All right? That day would come, and that day is here. So he gave you the information to help all of us up out of the mental slavery that has been bestowed upon us. So therefore, first and very foremost is to gain that knowledge through study or gain that knowledge through whatever way, because I know people don't like the word study, but through research or whatever, gain that knowledge so that you can be peeled off of that roller coaster of the mental slavery because nobody told you were free. Or you don't know that you are. But the world knows. And you're still running around in these fictions, but it's all really in your mind. So all of this is mental slavery. That's why he didn't say I came to take you out of slavery. He said I came to take you out of mental slavery. And so that's where we are. That's where we are now. Because look, it makes no sense for someone to show you an information what the drivers, as an example, just as an example, what the law says or what the rule is or the Constitution, as you mentioned, which is really the peace document. That's all it really is. It's like, look, everybody, if we all follow this, nobody will be infringed upon. And if you do infringe upon, here's the process on that. Did you hurt someone? You got to have it in your body in order to have any sanctions. That's right there. There's no sanctions against you unless there's an injured party. Now, you're talking physical injury, right? But then you're also talking that injury by contract, which is an agreement that you had to first make in order to show that you violated the terms of that agreement. First, you got to have the agreement. Where's your agreement? It doesn't even exist. However, a lot of people are making some agreements on the side. They don't even realize what they're doing, going further and further down the rabbit hole in a negative way, in reverse mode, really. But this is what's happening. So it's the mental slavery that you have to come out of. And that definitely requires you to have knowledge, just like Yeshua said, my people perish for this lack of knowledge. So it's not nothing new that we're making up, saying study. We're giving information for you to study upon, not for some scaring people or infiltrators to say, oh, that's not true. It is true. You can go check it out. It's true. Why doesn't it work, you would say? Because you're not working it. Because collectively or individually or as a group, you're not applying that which is. And when that happens, then, this thing will be over overnight. That's why Prophet said it's a breakfast fight. But some people don't want to come to breakfast. They want to still hang out and folly. That's it. And as simple as I said, it is really as simple as it is, because all the rest is just a bunch of bull, a bunch of fiction stuff, a bunch of stuff to pull your mind into this wormhole of nothingness. It's like the Wizard of Oz. I mean, if there was ever a movie that showed you, I'm telling you, and that was done in black and white, in the 30s or something, I think the 30s. And the most impacting thing, the whole thing was, but the most impacting thing of it, because I watched it last week, is at the very end, when she said, when the wise woman that they call witch, but they call her a good witch, because wise means, or witch means wise one, or witty one. She said, I could have told you. She said, what? Dorothy said, why didn't you tell me that I could have just been home, that I was home, and all I had to do was click my heels 3 times. And, if you click your heels, you're standing on a square, right, on the 7th. That's exactly right. So there's symbolism everywhere. But she said, I could have told you, but you wouldn't have believed me because you had to find out for yourself. And that's all that's being said. And assisting with information to help you hurry up and find out. And then people want to attack the information. There's just some sad, sick stuff for that. If you find it, you need to show yourself approved with it or whatever like that. And these people are definitely agents. And some of them are agents knowingly or being paid. Some are just, as you had mentioned, or what I would call scary people who don't have the hope, the faith, or anything, in anything. So therefore, they keep reminding you of what is happening. It's almost like they're overseers saying, oh, did you see what Master did today? Master went and they stopped some people and they shot them all up in the car. Or they pulled them in and tended them and dragged them, beat them up and all that kind of stuff. They're like overseers telling you what the problem is instead of putting energy into the fix. Because it is there. And here's the thing about the law and the Constitution. And Prophet even said it. He said they don't want the law because it is too stern. It is very stern. And lastly, the knees being weak. Now, what part, the body, the astrology energy that rules the knees is Capricorn. What does Capricorn represent? Nothing but law, order, discipline, law, and order. So that's why your knees is weak. And so therefore you can't hold yourself up. You can't hold up the cavity, which is the hips and the thighs. And then from there, that's at the top, the north, going all the way up to the top of your head. If your knees buckle. And then you take the polarity of that, because I'm telling you, it's in the sign. So if your knees buckle, you're falling. So if you don't have law, order, and governing principles in your life, you're falling. That's it. And what is the polarity of that? Cancer, the chest, the breast, the mothering, the birthright. That's what has to be put in order. Lest you scary as you be, it's all scary and, whatever like that, and your knees will buckle. Because there's no law, order, and discipline. And I guarantee you, anybody out there that does anything that has to do with order, you have protocols to it. And you know that as soon as you break any protocol, it always goes awry. I found it to be true. I have protocols on what I do. You have protocols on what you do. As soon as you do that for someone, and they say it's a favor, or they think it's a favor, and they go, oh, yeah, they did this for me because, hey, I'm in with that. No, it was a breaking of a protocol, and it never goes too well when you do that. Law, order, governing principle, discipline is what we are striving for or where we're going. And that, if you don't have that, yes, your knees shall buckle. Islam, I think someone may have had a comment, and if you do, let's do so. Otherwise, now I'm going to open up the lines for questions. No one has any other comments? Joe, Ms.? Oh, Ms. dropped out.
Well, I don't know. I don't want to take the convo too far out, but like just looking at some recent readings, like there's some people who equate in tarot cards. Like I know some people say it's a pseudoscience. I get it. I understand, but sometimes it'd be like prophecies in that. But they equate the devil with Capricorn, the devil card with Capricorn, because of the horns and all of these things. And I just wanted to add that on when you were talking about the needs and the lower self, and you know what I mean. Like these things kind of do remind me of that. And I'm not saying all Capricorns are evil or anything like that. I'm just saying that it is the lowest point of the sun in relationship to the earth, meaning that it's at the South Pole, if you will. It's aligned with the South Pole or the lower part of the earth, because good and evil is all based off of the zodiac anyway, the 6 constellations and the 6 southern constellations, because you are a part of the universe. So higher, lower self, that also consists of universal, and they can't license that type of existence. You feel me? It just is. So when you know all of this about self, Noble Drew Ali is telling you, man, is mind, and he's going into the soul and the attributes of the soul. You know, you should think a little bit more of your existence than being subject to pilgrims. I'm just saying that's the bottom line. However you want to look at it. If you say you're a card-carrying MST of A member, you should be knowing that as well, because that's civics. You can still tie that in with the First and 9th Amendment. So miss us with that subjective, what the pilgrims say, and we're not trying to, you know, be disrespectful, but it's international law, right? Everybody complaining about the system, quote unquote, the system, and these pilgrims already told you is laid out in the Declaration of Independence that when, you know, quote unquote, and I quote unquote, governments become too abusive and tyrannical, it's the right of the people to abolish it, meaning that you have the right to say you're not legit if they're not operating according to how they're supposed to be operating. And for those who want to make excuses for why their master, because they're serving the Roman gods, is acting out of order, you know, they're going to try to get you to come on to their converso side and justify being conversos. Like, that's what's happening. So they're not standing on the divine and national. They're not getting the divinity of, or exerting or exhibiting or living out the concept of, you know, being divine and national, like knowing that you're that divine and national being. And that may be because their parents didn't think much of themselves or whatever the situation was. At the end of the day, ignorance of the law is no excuse. And when you get to that level, you know that that's the law of nature. So now we're talking natural law, which is what the Constitution was even inspired by, where any law should be inspired by, or be inspired by. Any so-called law is contrary to the law of nature or the Constitution on American land, which is embodying the law of nature in multiple aspects, but can't enumerate everything that's natural law because it's so magnanimous that, you know, to waive that in all your splendor and all of your glory of claiming to be a Moor, claiming to be yourself, but then telling our people to just acquiesce and subject themselves on a public forum. That's sad. Yeah. This is not with no.
The internet is getting ready to go down. I just need to tell the people that if they can call in, they can call in, or with the phone number, or they can wait until the show is over and download the rest of the broadcast. What's up, Miss? Were you finished? I need to make that announcement. Well, I want to say this. You mentioned Capricorn again, and I will say this, and then we'll open up the lines. The other thing, you know, as you do your studies with it, Capricorn is the 10th. It's the 10th house after the aspirations of the being and controlling of their higher and lower self, which is why the 9th house is Sagittarius, half beast, half man, etc., like that. And it's really, as you said, about the higher self and the lower self. But what happens is Capricorn is the 10th house social house, and that is a direct reflection of your home, from your home, the 4th house. And so what happens is once you cross over the social orders, when you get to Capricorn, yes, it is the lowest point in the sun, but it's the highest point on the social houses. So it means this. You are what you are. How did your mama make you? Or, you know, or didn't your mama teach you anything type thing? Because that house is the epitome of social status. The epitome. You're supposed to bring it all there. Because that is the house where others see you as a direct reflection of what you are made of, if you will. All right? Because, you know, it is part of that self, being the cardinal point, self, being in that first house, Aries, how others see self, and then the 4th house being the house of self-origins, which is your home, from your mother's womb to whatever the raisings were. And then directly from self is the 7th house, which is the first social house, which is Libra, and that's who you're going to associate with, mix your blood with, partner with, etc. And then you get to the Capricorn, which is direct from the home. And that's it. What you are is how others see you. So you got self-origins from the 4th house. You got self from the first house. You got self-origins from your 4th house. You got all that opposes yourself from the 7th house, which means who you hang with, your associates, what you do. All right? And then you have how others see yourself, which is in Capricorn, even if you don't see yourself. And remember, others see you more clearly when you don't see yourself. So I say that to say that that's the epitome of the social hours at that point, and you are what you are. And if you need to work on some things, then, you know, fine, you know. But literally from the first 6 personal houses, whatever went on there, if you haven't fixed that or if you don't know what that is or if it needs to be fixed, it will reflect. And that's why people deal with Capricorn in that way, because you either going to be lower self that you give to society or higher. Or that's what you're striving for, because the Capricorn strives up that mountain as well. That's it. So that's why it has such a lot of, that's one of the reasons, all right, because there's many, but that's one of the reasons, and that's why in secret societies they have that little term, don't let nobody get your goat type thing, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot behind it, but it's all based in astrology.
Oh, my gosh, so, you know what's real? You was talking about Capricorn, and some told me, just open up the Light of Egypt real quick and go to Capricorn. And I haven't looked at the book in a while. And I don't know, I hear my echo. I don't know if that's your arrangement right now, but I just wanted to share this because it says Kabbalistically, the sign Capricorn signifies the needs of the grand macrocosm and represents the first principle in the trinity of locomotion. So I'm like, locomotion, that's the right to travel. If everything is a reflection of the universe and this information be accurate, in a certain essence, could we actually say that Capricorn governs the right to travel? I mean, on another level, because I know we govern our actions, but when you travel, it's about, no matter how you travel, it has something to do with the knees. Even if you're behind the wheel, you got to bend your knees a certain way to touch the pedal. You know what I mean? If you're on a bike, you got to bend your knees. If you're on the skates, you got to use your knees. If you're on a skateboard, you got to use your knees. If you're walking, you got to use your knees. No matter how you travel, it's something to do with your knees. So, I don't know. I would say
that mountain. That Capricorn's not getting up that mountain without.
You got
and so you just read that, right? And so you said locomotion, right?
It just hit me. Page 249, right. The Light of Egypt, Capricorn.
But check this out. The right
and don't
power.
let them get your goat. Hold on. Don't let them get your goat. Would equate to the Fifth Amendment. Don't let them take your property without due process of law, right? I don't know. I'm just looking at it a different way.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? The right to travel, right?
You said locomotion. You said locomotion.
Yeah.
So that's the definition of personal. Yeah, but that's the definition of personal liberty. The right of power of locomotion, of changing one's situation or moving one's person to whatever place one's own inclination may direct them without imprisonment or restraint, unless by due course of law. So yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, so I'm going to open up the lines for anyone who has questions. If you have a question or a comment,
hold on.
Press 1 on your phone. Oh, was that you, Cujo?
No, that was me. I just wanted to add on another aspect about Capricorn and the right to travel. It makes a lot of sense considering Capricorn is an earth sign and we operate on this earth plane, but at the same time multiple dimensions, if you feel what I'm saying. Like, so I don't know. I think we on to something with that. I really do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, so we do have a couple of hands up. If you have a question or comment, press 1, but there's someone who's been holding for a minute. Let's see. All right, 805-910. You are on the air. Do you have a question or comment?
Wow, Islam. Give all due praises to Allah, Noble Drew Ali, for bringing us all this beautiful, amazing, life-nourishing information. And I want to give thanks to you, Sister Rosmariah. You are so beautiful. I received, I say my library, my new segment of my library. I'm going to have a whole new wing because the information I received is amazing. And I am very, very grateful. If you have not gotten your nationality card or any information from RVBey Publications, you got to get on it. And if you're not doing that, you are cheating yourself in waiting and getting one publication at a time. The knowledge that I received is a confirmation of all the things, many of the things that I've been taught over my lifespan, but in concrete clarification. And I see the spirit of Allah through every ounce of it. I see the spirit of Allah moving through it. I see why Noble Drew Ali has you all continuously in the ethers working and preserving you. No matter what happens, you are the standing ground that has made sure that true Moors, true active Moors, have an opportunity to learn themselves. He said, know thyself. So if the temples go crazy, if people go crazy, if the government, as they call it, the U.S. goes upside down around the corner, whatever, the Constitution, they burn it, whatever, we got enough information that Noble Drew Ali left for us that we can't go wrong. And I'm just elated. And so what I would love to do, if I can do this briefly, is to share the favorite one of all of them right now would be the 7 principles of love. Because everything you said, Ms. Ryan, you were on point when it came to the things about the court system, the law. I won't go into my personal thing, but that's exactly what happens. Sometimes we have to wait on our law, or like people say in the church, on God. We have to wait to know the proper time. Cosmology is so important. I'm giving a testimony right now because without knowing anything about what I'm going through and what I have to deal with and what has sustained me, everything you said tonight has been on point with that. And I'm not the only one. There are other Moors out there, but I'm sure they're not saying anything. With regard to the root I call it the root chakra. In Ayurveda, we call it Muladhara, which is the base chakra, the first chakra, which is Capricorn, which is your foundation, which is what grounds you, which is what keeps you moving and motivated. When that is out of order, everything is out of order. Your whole foundation is out of order. So that goes to why love is so important, because that is the opposite, or should I say the antidote for when you're not moving, because love is a seat of the heart. That's the motivator. So if you're not moving, you're not motivated, then guess what you need? So this book right here, this pamphlet, this publication, on the 12th page, ironically 12, structures and process for love activation. If you've ever wondered as a Moor, Muhammad Ali says we must learn to love instead of hate, and you think you know what it is, you better open this book and you better start reading from the top to the bottom, because you really may not know. It's amazing. It has everything, all 7 steps. You got to have a giving opportunity, or should I say response mechanism. You've got to be responding. You've got to have ownership. You've got to function in the right space. Being an adult. Oh, wait a minute, that right there. Many of us walking around, we're little children in big people's bodies. And we're talking about we know what love is. That's not right. So being honest. Can you really be honest with yourself? You can't even get to know yourself unless you're honest with yourself, which means you got to know all your dirt and not necessarily like it, but accept it for change. And then controlling the ego. Whoa. Everybody's got one. Everybody's got that part of themselves that they don't lock down all the way because they think they're going to be protected by it. That's part of the Muladhara and the Capricorn being off balance, because Capricorn governs finances and also money, or should I say abundance or security. It's very interesting. Forgiving and loving. Most of us have problems with this. Respecting. What is that? You get respect, I don't get respect. It doesn't say that I have to give you respect in order for you to act like you got respect. It just says be respectful. That's very deep right there. Knowing, humility, and intimacy. Whoever thought to put that together? Courage and commitment, caring. Sister Rosmariah, I don't care what anybody has ever said about you, but when you work, when Allah's Spirit comes through you, sister, this is what the whole entire nation needs to be reading every day like they do the Holy Quran. Because without this formula, we cannot do alchemical nothing to anything or for anything to benefit anyone. So I'm going to just say that I am grateful. I recommend everybody goes to Divine Instructions from the Holy Prophet in the Holy Quran as well. Read chapter 47. It gives you the instructions on what and how a temple is supposed to be structured, what you're supposed to be doing, and in the end of the time and fulfilling of the prophecies, who's Moor, who's a national Moor, who has nationality, who doesn't have nationality. It's all right there. We're arguing, as Sister Marazma said, about stuff that's already here. Just apply love. Just be humble. Just do what it says to do. I'm just so happy. I'm so joyful. There's so much joy here. I'm gonna go read because I was doing that, and I have a commitment to this show now. Every Tuesday, if I can make it, I get on and I try to do the best that I can to listen and to learn. And if I can be of encouragement, I want to give back. So if I can't give the money and Allah has given me wisdom, then I'd be a fool to hold it back. So not all the time will I have a question, and so that is the reason why, because I want to give to my family. I have been given all this knowledge for over 30 years in Ayurveda and ancient science. I would be a nut not to share what it is that I know, especially if it confirms every single thing you all are writing about and every single thing Noble Drew Ali has said. Islam, I love you all, beloveds. May Allah continue to bless your work and all your needs be met. Alhamdulillah.
Thank you. Islam. Wow. All right. She's busy with that 7 principles, and that has a story behind it, which is right in it. And I won't go into that now. That was divine intervention that prompted that. All right, what's the next number here? All right, 623-907. You are live on the air.
Islam, Mother Rise, Cujo, and Miz.
Yeah.
This is Asim Bey. And that was a great affirmation from the sister that just called. Just a great affirmation. Just a great affirmation. I read that book also. I don't know if you remember, Roz, when you had sent me that book. I read that book also. And I suggest every brother read that book also, because, brothers and sisters have a hard time. I remember sharing my love story with everybody. And the love story is about how I found myself and fell in love with myself because I didn't know myself for maybe 47 years, And when I had time to find myself, and it was around the same time, well, a little later when I came into the knowledge of the science, the Moorish science. Just a great affirmation. I really appreciate that, And I better understand when someone who understands Moorish science, they say 3 plus 4. When you understand Circle 7, 3 plus 4, brother.
Yeah.
Or 3 times 4, however you want to put it. But when you're talking to Circle 7, understand 3 plus 4, and you got it. I wanted to address something. I was writing these down because if I don't write them down, I lose track. The show just wonderful and on the different things that you hit. One thing I want to talk about is I was asked a question. I got a phone call from one of my nieces because, like my whole family is becoming conscious, and when they become conscious, they understand that they nationalizing, and they sending for their cards and they doing their proclamations and stuff like that, and they waking up. So, but the biggest fear that I find that our people have is that they have to free themselves. That's the biggest problem that our people have, that they got to free themselves. That's it. They want everybody to free them, but you got to free yourself. Nobody can do it for you. And a question was asked. I got a phone call from one of my nieces, and another one of my nieces had spoken to her, and her position was, well, what's all this about? Why nationality and this whole thing, And when I get a question sometime, to that depth, I think for a moment, even though I might have an answer. And this is for anybody out there that don't understand this here, from my perspective and from my degree of study. When you link yourself back to your forefathers and foremothers after being enslaved and not knowing who you are, we at the greatest time in the history of mankind. This is why we got a prophet, and this is why Prophet Noble Drew Ali is a prophet, because we at a time that he's waking people up to link themselves back to their foremothers and forefathers, that all that happened, once you link yourself back and you free yourself and you able to link up with your forefathers and foremothers, what that does is make that connection of continuity going forward.
Yes.
Do you understand that continuity of bringing your spirit of your forefathers, on all your ancestors, everyone? If we understand if we understand chapter 1, that it never was a time when we were not.
That's right.
If we understand that, we make that connection and link ourselves to every single one of our forefathers and foremothers going forward when the prophet says this is for the yet unborn, that they'll wake up and come into this world free, and it's a possibility to never be enslaved again.
Yeah.
To never be enslaved again. That's the importance of linking yourself back to your forefathers and your foremothers when the prophet brought that. See, I watched a video where Cujo, he went to Philadelphia. He was with Seth and Ryan, and they went on a trip. And the tour guy took them down to Congo Park. And I'm from that area near Philadelphia. And I grew up not far from Congo Park down there. And in Congo Park, he explained to him, is this where the free elders, the free enslaved elders came and did their rituals, and they did their mantras, and they beat the drums, and they was staying linked to their forefathers and foremothers. And he was telling them about these wizards and magi's. And he was explaining to them that George Washington made a memorial across the street at the park, and at the memorial they buried 200 troops there in the ground. So if you really understand what I'm saying, then you understand that you have an opportunity while you in the flesh and you this living God walking around in the flesh, that you have an opportunity to change and correct your consciousness and link yourself back so that you can be a warrior in this fight of rebuilding the nation. And I don't mean to come on to preach and to sound like this here, but if you don't do that, you be trapped on this plane.
Yes.
And they done set things aside. Like, if you understand what they did in memorializing that, they trying to entrap you in the spirit world to put George Washington in and the 200 troops there to stand guard over the ancestors there and the thing. You know, this is on the spiritual, metaphysical world thing, but it all is built in understanding your forefathers and foremothers and linking yourself back. That's the importance of this. Not just running around with this here thing of the people caught on the driver's license, like they said, trying to get something out of here, trying not to pay a 2-cent tax, that you don't have no money anyway. You know, understanding that. So, that was on point. That was on point. We had to link ourselves back.
You know what? I said, you know what? And to simplify that, like you said, enslaved, right? And the prophet said, I came to take you out of your mental slavery. Well, like, I would say in a simpler way, like, all right, so you're running around calling these foreigners and their structures government. And essentially government means governing the mental, and you're in the mental slavery. So you're running around calling these foreigners government. That's a good damn reason to link yourself back, because they're not there as your government. They ought not be governing the mental of you and your children, and there is already written down what they're supposed to be doing. But you're running around, and when I say you, I mean us, thinking that these people, whatever they say, that's what it is. Oh, they said you can't do this. Can't eat a banana on Tuesday. You can only eat apples on Wednesday. And pretty soon that's what they're going to do. And that's mental control. And
that's right.
Simply as simple as that. So that's a good enough reason. And then on top of that, like what you're expressing, the glorified aspect is when you find out the truth. Like for instance, you have your children running around in these generations. What have we contributed? We've just been slaves. We've contributed nothing to society and to civilization. And then you find out that's just a big lie. I mean, so that's what you find out to help you come back out of this mental slavery. Because if you can't free your mind, the rest of you won't follow. And like you said, you'll just be going through this cycle, and you keep coming back on the same cipher, still not learning that.
That's right.
That's why. But
that's right.
People think this is it, and what has been put before them, and and they're still being in this mental slavery, and don't even know it. And how would they?
Don't even know it
until right. So going back and finding out this information, like he said, go back to the mindsets of your foremothers and forefathers. Well, even if you just said, okay, let me go see what he's talking about, then that's where you will find your truths. And it would change your life. And from at this point and beyond, as you said. Because remember, when the law was written, it was really written for these foreigners, but it was your duty and responsibility to enforce it because it's for posterity, as Ms. said earlier. I mean, it's for your children's children forevermore. Just that power right there ought be enough to stop complaining about things that are happening and be active and go back to the mindset. Well, thank you for bringing that. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes. Yeah, because freedom is in the truth, and you must know it. And just like you was talking about these, quote, black people, or I don't even like to say it no more, but running around unconscious, these so-called white people thinking that they white is just as detrimental. It's becoming just as detrimental to them. So those great-great-grandfathers and mothers who taught that to their prodigy, they done put their prodigy in a burning way. Like Cujo said, that they done hit a wall where it's no way out. It's no way out.
Exactly. And, and then when you think, like the Prophet also said, if I could just get you to thinking, you would free yourself. You know what I'm saying? So how is it that, right, like, you know that you were here before they got here. You understand this whole story and everything, And
right.
And you have proof of that. You can go right to Philadelphia, the Articles of Association, where these modern Europeans came traipsing to the Congress that existed already, asking for assistance in them to, let them know they want to declare their independence from who? From the British. It's documented facts. So, once
That's
you know
right.
that, how could you possibly continue to think that they say our founding fathers. You need to find out what it is they're talking about. They found it because it's not your founding fathers. They're just not. Period.
That's right.
They're just not. But then you have Moors, unconscious, and some conscious. From what I'm getting, they're going around with us. Our founding fathers, George Washington, and so and so. And it's like, what are you? This is craziness. Now, last night, it was a show that was on, and it was just one of those shows, and a woman was talking. It was one of those court shows or something, and the woman said, "Well, yeah, even in the founding, there were 35 lawyers." Yeah, see, guess what? I already knew what that was. The average person looking at that would go right over their head.
Right.
You know what I mean? So she was making a distinction between those who wanted to be free, as far as the Constitution was concerned, and those who were already law men. And so then, like I said, you go to the Articles of Association 1774, where they went in on September the 5th at Philadelphia and dealt with, came before the existing Congress, which has nothing to do with them, obviously, if they're going there to get their freedom. So this is why.
The Articles of Confederation.
No, Articles of Association. It's only a page and a half. It's on the Forgotten Scrolls page. The Articles of Association, if it does nothing else, it proves to you it is a document of American history. In the libraries, it's a document of American history. It shows you right there in the first paragraph how all those plantations, which were really modern Europeans, were on them. They even name them. Matter of fact, they even use the word plantation. And they say that they came to Philadelphia on September the 5th to the Congress that was clearly already in session and existing, and asked them and said that they would follow whatever their recommendations were, because these people who came there from these plantations were not us, was them, and it clearly says that is it. That is their first request formally at Congress to put in their Declaration of Independence from the British. It's right there in American history. It's right there happening in Philadelphia. So that's why that document is on there. For as people study, they can link these things together, and it all links together.
Islam.
So there you go.
Islam.
So now how can you, we talked about this. You look at the treaty, a piece of French, and it says between Moors and what? Doesn't say Christians. It had Christian powers because they are practicing their religion through Christianity, which they claim, the son of, Christ, which is, we know is the S-U-N son. And as I had said on another show, that they paid homage to the son too, but only in a different way. And then they just went around wanting everybody to accept their version of Christianity. And if you didn't do it, their God, so-called God, said they can kill you. And then when they came and found, brown-skinned people, which is the definition of the Americans for real, various copper-colored people, they were like, yes, if you don't convert to our version of, I'm saying version because it is, our religion, Christianity, and accept Jesus as your Savior, Lord and Savior, we're going to kill you. That, you know what I'm saying? Like that.
That's right.
And so today,
that's right. It was right in the charter.
Right, but hey, here's what I'm saying. So today, all they're really doing is practicing their religion. All right, that's all they do. You go and look in their charters and stuff like that, and you see they were parishes and everything it's all under religion. They're practicing their religion to this day as Christians, and that's why you can't be a Christian in that respect. And that's also why the prophet said, look, you better claim, you need to claim your nationality and your religion.
That's right.
Because the religious freedom opens both ways. And so what's happening is, look, they're practicing their religion, which they call Christianity, their version of it. No hidden thing there. Read the Intercaterra Divina, 1493, right? They're practicing it. So now here you come, right, bro? Here you come. You're supposed to be more, right? Conscious or unconscious, and you talking about you're a Christian, and they're like, we already know what the protocols of the Christian is. So if you're a Christian, then, you go into some of our Christian institutions, including the church. And we got everything already laid out. So you lose in jurisdiction immediately with that, because what they're doing that injures us today is practicing their religion, just as they did inscribed it out in Intercaterra Divina. It's just that simple. So you have to you have to claim your religion as well. So, and that's also why, even in the what they call the Obamacare, I can't remember the name of it. He has it in there. Listen, if you're Islamic or Muslim, this doesn't even apply to you.
Right.
But how many people? Right, they won't claim their religion as well as their nationality, which is really culture.
That's right. And I want, not to get off topic, I want to say one more thing. It's a comment, really. And it's dealing with emails. I had spoke with, Tex Cujo, and maybe spoke with Ms. about something. I'm not going to go into it in detail because I'm watching my emails for a few minutes. So it's only a few people that I talk to. My specific problem not a problem, but was something that I see that can be a problem, is that I've been getting these weird emails, and I'm wondering if other people been getting these weird emails, and and the emails appear to be marrying like a mirror other people's email address in the sending of the email, but the meat of the email, the language is different. For instance, if I got an email from a Moor, it was peace and greetings, and it was certain protocols and things in the email. But the email that mirrored his email address was like irate, like it was a scam. It was a scam email, but it showed that it came from the same person.
No, there's viruses. There's viruses out there that will attack your email addresses and send you something that you think is from somebody right? Or as you said, because that's one of the gauges I do. If someone sends me something and their greeting is not correct, I already know I'm not opening it. You know what I'm saying? I already know. Depending on, like, if it's a group thing, you know, and I'm not saying that with everything, but you could just tell, you know, or if it's not an email address that I can identify with any processes or orders or whatever I'm doing, and it says hello or, you know, or whatever it says like that. But then it may have, there was a virus that that actually got into your email addresses, sent stuff to all your email people, or sent stuff to you as if it came from one of your email people on your email address. So you got to be real careful about opening up things like that. But that really, see, that's a virus, so you have to have a good virus cleanup. You have to talk to someone that, like Dave, knows about how to do that stuff. He's the man on that. But, and I'm, you know, I don't know who you know out there, but if you want to talk to him, you know, you know, you can reach out and tell you how to fix that. But the other thing is that what we don't realize is that these people look at everything we do. So, like, for instance, even when you go to people's YouTubes and or these shows right here, these broadcasts, you know, they will use terminology that sounds like it's something lawful, but it's really color of law because they know that this is what is attracting to people's minds. You know what I'm saying? I remember one time I think I put Google Chrome on. I think it was Google Chrome, and it took over. I removed it. I will never use that. It took over everything that I even wrote on the website. Like if I wrote mortgage, just as a word, and in writing that I was doing, it was highlighted in blue, and if you clicked it, it would go to some mortgage company. I'm telling you, you know, as if we at RVBey was sending people to this mortgage company. So you got to be real careful about what goes on your computer, and if you're getting an email like that, it's a virus or an attack on trying to get your attention for other advertisements and other things.
Right. Thank you. All right. So I just want to put that out, and I appreciate the call. And I want to say one more last thing and give an honor, praise, thanks, glory to Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And me knowing, not believing, but me knowing that if we had a prophet here that looked like us, that was a universal prophet, but came to help us, his people. And that's what he said.
What did he say? He said, I am a universal prophet.
I'm a universal prophet, but I came to you because you needed me most.
Because why? What did he say? Because you needed me the most.
That's right. That's right. So Islam, knowing that we have a prophet and have everybody rest with their prophet. Peace and love.
Islam, brother, thank you for calling. And also, get at me a little later because I have a photo of one of your nieces or something, but all I have is the photo. And I'm not sure if that was a photo.
Okay, I know who it is.
All right, send me the information.
Fact, I certainly will.
All right. All right,
peace and love. And if Annie E listening, peace and love to Annie E. To shout out to Annie E.
All right.
All right.
All right, peace, brother.
Peace and love. All right.
Peace and love, man.
Peace to your family. All right. I think we only have one more caller. Let me just meet him out here. All right. Well, this is an internet caller or something, the 000000. What's up? Islam, are you with us?
Islam family, can you hear me?
Yes. Zamiel, right?
No. This is Mohammed Bey from Northwest Mexham. This is my first time using the internet call, so I haven't really set it up yet. So excuse me.
All right.
There are three things I like to briefly say. The first is just a comment, and the other two are in form of questions. The comment pertains to charlatans that you guys were speaking of, and under normal circumstance, it's not even worth devoting any energy or time to, entertain energies like that. But At the same time, the thing that you guys are doing, where you actually address certain things, is a very good thing. It clarifies some misconceptions and falsehoods that are mixed with, a bit of truth for those who are curious and those who are, being misled. So I'd simply like to take this time to express and extend my gratitude and appreciation, and let you guys know that your energy is well received and you guys are much appreciated. The second thing is a question.
Noble, thanks, man.
The second thing I have is a question. You guys were briefly speaking of things pertaining to recorders at the counties and whatnot, and how they don't uphold their fiduciary duties. Now, I know that we can always, hold them accountable in many ways, whether it is via the, their own United States Code Title 18, or the fact that they can't make legal decisions as recorders, or even take it to the most preferable method, which is, invoking the law of the land with the due process and whatnot. But could you guys speak a little about your personal experiences with these recorders, and if you've ever had any experience where they attempt to refuse the documents and, not uphold their duties? Because I know they have corporate... I'm sorry?
No, go ahead.
Oh, because I know they have corporate codes where they permit themselves to refuse certain documents based on some bogus criteria. So if you could you just, share some of your experiences, in this avenue, just briefly.
Well, let me put it to you like this. Back in the day or years ago, we recall going to these venues, courts as they call, and asking, say, for a delegation or the magistrate's oath, and they would just reach over the counter and give it to you. So now, what is happening is the exposing. Yes, right. Well, what's happening is exposing of truth, as you said. Truth and fiction is truth and falsehood is strangely mixed. Because of the consciousness of the people and the exposing of them, because here's the kicker. They're not courts. They're corporate venues pretending to be courts. They're not doing, if they have any authority, it's delegated per the Constitution. So it's not like, okay, let's deal with this, and then we're going to go over here and deal with Constitution law. The law of the land is the Constitution, and anyone operating upon it is to follow it, is to go by it, is to uphold it. The oath is there. Now, essentially what that means is if they don't have the delegation of authority, if they don't have the oath of office, then that means they're not a viable, lawful court. They're not. It's just like saying if you have a restaurant and you have to have a license for whatever reason, I'm just saying in that venue, when you go in, your license for the restaurant or the business is hanging on the wall somewhere and it's always updated, correct? Right? All right. So Same thing with these venues. There, in fact, Article 3 expresses to you what a court is and what it is not, and the delegation of authority for judicial authority. That means they're going and they're adjudicating on people all day long, and they have no judicial authority to do so. So now the people, not just Moors, but modern Europeans as well, are exposing the fact that they're not who they say they are. They are not who they say they are. They operate as if they are. They dress up as if they are. But now I could just say that. But if you go, if you have a situation, you have to know who all the parties are. So if you go and you look at, well, what's the venue? And if it's the prosecutor and who's prosecuting, what was the injury and who's prosecuting? Well, if it's the prosecutor, well, then they have to bring it to the correct venue. They're bringing it to municipalities, which are municipal domiciles, which have no judicial authority. That's how big the joke is. But as big as that joke is, when the people who are rising up to this consciousness go to, deal with this, then these people in these venues calling themselves court, right? They're thinking, how in the heck are we going to feed our children tomorrow? Because this is how we get paid, off of violating the law. Then you have infiltrators and agents that look just like you and want to support that and say, oh, that's good. It's also right. That's the law. So no matter who's operating on this land and no matter what they're operating on this land, what it is, it doesn't matter. The law of the land is the Constitution. So if anyone, any association, any charter, any sub-charter, any chapter, any sub-chapter, whatever, that's established is violating the law, they're violating the law. And they're violating you and I's rights and liberties. So the big joke is that they're not even government. Now, what do they have? They have an army, a militia. That's what they got. But they're paid corporate security guards that we all call policemen. And off of the raping of the people, they're able to afford to buy police cars. And they're able to go out and say, oh, I'm a law enforcer and you must do what a law enforcer says. They're not law enforcers. We have to know the difference because if you look them up, you'll find that their charters say that they're corporations. So a corporation doesn't have any parity with the real flesh and blood beings. The thing is getting our people, peeling them away from that falsehood. They're stuck to it like it's real, even when you show them that it's not. Because even in the biblical text, it says he shall fool even the most elite. This is what we're looking at. And so getting our people to peel off of that and stand on their square and stand on, period, on truth. And recognize when the truth is strangely mixed with falsehood because it is. So all these generations, they're the law. So I said all that to say there, brother, you're not going into a court. And
oh yeah.
Yes, it's getting to the point now where, like you said, the Constitution. That's what it is anyway. Now you can go to the state court. All of them have all been violating the rights of the Aboriginal, Indigenous, natural flesh and blood beings all day long for generations and generations and generations. So this is a serious collective mental slavery that we must come up out of. And our work is really, people say, well, what are you doing to help? We are 24/7 because that has to be attained first. So, and I will say that there's some venues people go into, and we've done it, and they have honored the law and what they'll do. I will say that the matter, which they used to do, I don't, know what's going on now. Now they're just really just trying to, the noose, they're pulling that noose tighter because they are losing. They don't know how they're going to feed their children if they can't suck your blood, and that's real. All right? So, some of the places you go to, depending on, I guess, what you know, how you stand, what light emanates from you, what the truth beams off of you as opposed to the falsehood, you can go in and they'll dismiss the matter and they don't want to see you anymore. But they can still keep doing what they do because they don't know how not to because, as I said earlier, they're caught. They're caught. So it's all coming to a head. And, when you say United States codes or whatever like that, those are all like for corporations and commercial activities and things like that. And they have no honor to nationality because really they don't have one. I mean, they do, but they really don't, as we mentioned earlier.
Right.
So,
right.
So so that's what's happening, and that's why it's serious.
Yes, I agree with you. So it's ridiculous to the point where I was actually speaking to one of the hired quote unquote security guards of a train station the other day, and he was so proud and he was bragging about how how they can do so many things and he was speaking from a corporate perspective. I'm assuming his perspective on my knowledge and how things function was limited. Mm-hmm. But I started speaking about how certain things about the municipal corporation of the city was established and whatnot, and he kind of withdrew in the conversation, and the energy that he carried was different because when they know that they behave differently.
There it is.
Funny.
There it is, right there.
I have right. I have one last question though.
Sure.
The last question I have deals with, one of the House resolutions passed this January. As we all know, the corporate United States is a bankrupt entity, and they have no office, and all they do is just front to keep individuals in mystery and false faith. But I struck up a conversation with an individual about a week ago, and we were speaking about House Resolution 193 that was passed this January, seeking to end the United States membership in the United Nations. This specific House resolution is also loosely referred to as American Sovereignty Restoration Act or something like that. I'm extremely curious as to what other nationals' take on this is and why it is even more important to be active as, Aboriginals of the Americas. Amongst one of the things mentioned in their resolution is that the conventions agreed upon previously, where they are party to it, will be nullified. For example, the prevention and punishment for crimes of genocide and Convention on Rights of Duties and States. So could you guys share your views on this? And that's my last question.
I haven't read that all the way, but from what I'm hearing, obviously you have, first of all, I guess they want to withdraw so thinking that, oh, well, we won't be charged with genocide. Well, you know what? Genocide is genocide, period. But I don't know that the United States could ever be a part of the United Nations because it's not a nation. See, the only people that can speak nationhood and sovereignty are those who are the Aboriginal Indigenous nationals of the land, because sovereignty doesn't stand alone. It only comes with nationality. You see what I'm saying? So no one else can actually speak on that. And a lot of times we go running after stuff that we ought not be running after. Because like say if there was a modern European and you asked him what his nationality is and he said Irish, well, this is not Ireland. So he would withdraw because there's no nation called the United States. Do you see? This is the nationals. The nationals are not speaking. Oh, well, we're becoming conscious now, but we got so many misinformation and going out there with a little bit of information and running into problems because, as I had said earlier, we're bringing the Negro-colored mentality and European mindset, as we might call it as well, because that's their intent for us to be that, and we're bringing that into and mixing it, the apples with the oranges, which cannot be mixed. So I'll look into that and we'll comment on it more, but I think I heard a little bit about it, but I know that the United States is not a nation, so therefore they could never, who's withdrawing from the United Nations? First of all, the United Nations, that's all a corporation anyway, and they only affirm. This is what we got to understand. United Nations didn't create the law. The United Nations affirms, as in the Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People. Those are all national. Those are principles, natural principles. We deal with that, and so they affirmed it when they put those documents out. So sometimes you never say pursuant to, never ever say pursuant to the Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People. You never say pursuant to the Declaration of the Rights of the Child. You never say that. You say as affirmed in. Because these rights and liberties always existed, whether the United Nations was established or not. Because really the United Nations used to be called the League of Nations. So now it's a corporation. So I'll look into that, but I can guarantee you there'll be a whole lot of Moors who probably will run after whatever is put out. Yes, because we just... Yes, exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. I was reading and I was just, it was kind of funny, but at the same time, I was thinking to myself, wow, you guys are bold, very bold. But then again, like you said, it's because, we're not speaking up and we're not exercising.
And that's why they wanted to call themselves the Americans. And so now we've brought out information, no, y'all not the Americans. That is
right.
And guess what? We don't even have to guess about that, because it says like a lot of the things that Prophet Drew always says he qualifies too. Like he said, well, you strayed after the strange gods of Europe, and then he added, of which you knew nothing about, right? So now when you look at the definition of American, it says the various copper tone people. Then it says found on the continent by the Europeans. So you immediately know that's not them. And then you look into what you know, that they all admit they came over on, really, they didn't admit they came over as slaves, but we know that's true. But let's just go with the one where they admitted they came over on Ellis Island, because that's the limitations of education that they wanted us to have. But now we've gone beyond that to say, wait a minute, y'all came over here as slaves first. You didn't teach that at all. But even if you wanted to stay with the Ellis Island, which are really the descendants, the lineal descendants of the Slavics who were enslaved here, who got freedom from the Declaration of Independence, etc., like that, and then they called over for their descendants to come over here where is the land of the free, because they knew they were slaves. In England, they knew they were Britain. They knew they were slaves, so they brought their babies over here. My great-great-grandfather came and all that, and he's on the register and all that stuff like that. Those are their lineal descendants coming over here to be free. To be free. They didn't lie. It's just that we didn't have all of the information, because they're not going to tell our history the way we ought to tell it. They're going to tell their history. Or they're not going to tell our heritage. And they don't want to tell their heritage, because that goes into the graphic and the troglodyte and the cave and the Darwin theory, which is, exactly.
Yep. Really everything else.
So lastly, let me add this. And so now, since they're not the true Moroccans or Americans, as it's called today, they have to steal your birthright and your nationality in order to have a home. And so that's another reason to answer the brother who called us, I think it was just Sim earlier. He said, people ask, why is this important? There's another reason, because somebody's trying to take your stuff, your liberty from you, by claiming to be you.
Yes.
And we're sitting back. No nationals are speaking, except for the travel ban. When they tried to put a travel ban, the rest of the nationals of the world said, I don't think so. But here we are. You see what I'm saying? That's why it didn't fly.
Yes. Yep. Thank you very much for your time, Mother. Brother Mizraim, keep up the great work, man.
It's spring. Time to tackle the tackle box and get organized. Time to stock up at Cabela's. Let's go deep, shallow, weedless. Cabela's Fishing Classic, your one stop before the water. Get 25% off